Welcome back to another edition of the Advantage Line, your one-stop shop for all things NRL and rugby league. Once again, I'm joined in studio by Carl Tiley. Carl, welcome along.
Hey, Paul. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, big grand final night.
It was.
Final.
It was a late one.
Gee,
Say that much.
Yep. It's a lot later for us here than it is for our good friends across the Tasman.
Yep.
Let's head up north though, and we'll check in with our good friend from Papamoa, who's not in Papamoa today. Blake, tell us where you calling from?
So from Taupo, there's obviously we saw the news. Ray Rabbits Warren has retired, hung up the mic. So saw an opportunity, Paul, and I'm down here commentating the NZRL National Youth Tournament for the girls 16s and 18s. Next week we do the boys 16s and 18s. So I've got my best impersonation down this sideline, just ready to really ramp it up into a position next year for the NRL.
Can you give us an Ashford and Carney?
Ashford, Carney and Ashford. He will get there running all the way back to his birthplace in Paddington.
Second follow-up question. Who are you commentating for? Where is this footage and where can we hear it?
So all the games are on New Zealand Rugby League website. They're being live streamed. You can find them on YouTube. And the final day tomorrow will be on Sky, I believe.
So your commentary will be on Sky tomorrow?
I believe so, unless they're getting a ring in for the final, which is quite possible, the way I've been commentating.
I heard if you push the yellow button, you can get Dan Gannay.
For all the listeners out there, this podcast will probably come out after that final is on Sky. But
too late.
If you've listened, Blake, if you can get a little shout out for the Advantage Line in there, we'll see if we can work something out for you.
Yeah.
Yep. We'll get it happening, eh? Tomorrow, grand final day. Why not?
Right, let's head a wee bit further north to the voice of rugby league in Auckland, our good friend Surly. Surly, how are you?
Yeah, a little bit less adventurous than Blake. Just parked up at home, ready for another big episode. Not quite swanning around the country yet. No Rabs Warren type of gigs, but hey, happy to be here talking footy with you lads.
Well, why don't we get down to it and have a look at the grand final first of all? And I've got to say, I thought it was a high-quality grand final, certainly from the Penrith Panthers. They were superb, especially in that first half. And look, I don't think Parramatta played poorly. I just think that the Panthers were just so far above them in skill level and speed of play that Parramatta just weren't able to assert any sort of authority on the match. Surly, your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I kind of agree that even if Parramatta had put in their best performance, I don't think it would have been strong enough with what the Panthers turned out. For that first 60 minutes, they were just so dominant. Like right from the opening whistle, Leota, Fisher-Harris, they kind of set the tone through the middle. And it was like the Eels looked out on their feet. They looked exhausted after the first 5 minutes. And you talk about that toll that grand final week can have, how different it is to any other type of build-up. And I think that played a massive effect on Parramatta because almost straight away they looked to be gassed, whereas Penrith, with that finals experience, looks like they just handled the occasion so much better. You had guys like Spencer Lenu, 21 minutes, and he outran Junior Paulo and Regan Campbell-Gillard. So that's pretty crazy. And then you have guys like To'o, 299 run meters. Like how do you go with performances like that off the back of Cleary and Edwards and all their usual guys showing up as well? So I think you just have to sit back and admire this Penrith side and the performance that they put in, because I don't think anyone on that night would have been able to beat them.
Blake, you pinned your ribbon onto the Parramatta Eels. Unfortunately, they couldn't get the job done. And I guess, as Surly just said, when you've got someone like To'o returning the ball for almost 300 metres, Clive Churchill medal winner, Dylan Edwards also way up there in run metres, it just takes a bit of pressure off your big forward pack and usually gives you a good starting position. So for the Parramatta Eels, they were always playing catch-up. Did you see any sort of instances during that game where you thought, oh, gee, if the bounce of the ball had gone this way, Parramatta may have been in the game?
Nah, none at all. I mean, they were completely outplayed from the get-go. And I think a bit of it was the mindset as well, because you saw the mindset that the Panthers had with the Parramatta Eels line speed. It was just non-existent. And then you go to a trick play where they tried to Dylan Brown Moses on, like, it plays in a grand final to get around the Panthers. It's just not going to work. So I just think that, look, Penrith are way too good on the night, and grand final comes up to moment, and Dylan Edwards' tackle, the Scott Sattler tackle, that was outstanding. And that's the moment for me where the whole grand final was won, because if Parra were to go along and score, they might have been given a sniff. And, you know, rugby league's a funny game, but Dylan Edwards, that tackle, and I was thinking not only got him the Clive, I thought it would have got him an Aussie jersey as well, but not to be.
Carl, I'm guessing that you've had a look at the stats around the match. Anything there that would suggest that, Parramatta, they were almost there?
Yes and no? Nah. It's not really. Penrith almost played the complete game. Their completion rate, 86% in a grand final. Anytime you've got 86% completion rate, you're probably going to win the match, regardless of first game of the season, last game of the season. Parra was 70%. I think probably, I think their first half completion rate, Parra were up at 80, just over 80%. And 70% has probably gone down a little bit when they're throwing it around at the end, trying to start some stuff. The big one for me, the run meters, Penrith 2,200 run meters to Parra's 1,600, and the average set distance, Penrith are making 50 meters a set, and it was with ease too. To Parra's 44. Kick return meters, Penrith 326 meters. Parra were restricted to 124 meters on kick return. To me, that says the defense of Penrith were incredible, which they were. And for 60 minutes, like I say, it was almost the perfect game. 60 to 70 minutes, Penrith just executed to perfection. Like Sally said, Parra were gassed. They had nowhere to go. And it was a good game to watch, but at the same time, it was a pretty boring game to watch because it was just one-way traffic. And I'd hoped Parra would put a show, would have a bit more of an even keel, but you got to hats off to the Panthers. Impressive.
One of the, I guess, turning points in the game was early in the second half with Brian To'o's second try and a possible obstruction further in. I think it was Kiko who was trying to run through the Parramatta line as a decoy, and was it Mitchell Moses who got hit on the outside shoulder. Now, funnily enough, I think the right call was made. I think Mitchell tried to milk that one and had to reach out to actually get contact from Kiko. But having said that, just about every other game this season, that has been called an obstruction. So, Surly, were you happy with the call there, or do you think they should have called the obstruction and nullified the try?
I think by the letter of the law, it was an obstruction, and we've seen that being ruled out all year long. You know, when you go at that outside shoulder, they're so quick to shut it down. And then you had the guys, the Immortals on the commentary, just lost for words. They just couldn't believe that was given a try. So if you're going to rule that all year long, then that needs to be a no try. At the same time, I don't think Moses would have got there and made any impact on the outcome, but that's almost not the point. If we're going to go letter of the law, and the crazy thing for me is, like, referee lets it go. It's hard in real time, but when the bunker starts looking at it over and over again and comes up with that result as well, when you're hearing through the commentary and from what you've seen all year that it's a clear no try, you just wonder how the bunker gets it so wrong. But I'm glad it didn't have an outcome on the game, because I think Penrith were well and truly the way better side, and that wouldn't have changed anything. But letter of the law, it's not a try.
Old
Yeah.
mate here was happy to call it a try because he profited from it with
Yeah,
scoring on both sides of halfway. But
he went close to that Dally. I reckon without Edwards in the mix, To'o was probably that next guy at $51 for you, Paulie.
$56. That's right, $56. And
it's all
I
for
think,
nothing, though. It's all for nothing.
if To'o scores one more try and Edwards doesn't do a Scott Sattler tackle, it may have just swung it To'o's way. But I've got no argument, no qualms with Edwards getting the Clive Churchill. He was absolutely superb in that game. But getting back to the bunker, Blake, were you happy with the decision? And I mean, we could have had a section on the bunker every single episode this season. We chose not to, but overall, were you happy with the performance of the bunker? And then in particular with that no obstruction call?
No, I wasn't. Look, it's hard. The hardest job, referee, bunker, but you're never going to be happy, and there's always someone that's going to be upset. And personally, I think there was an obstruction called on Parramatta a bit earlier where they ran around someone and Cleary fell down, and and I thought that should have been play on because they went further. But nonetheless, I think the try that was scored, I think I'm a bit like you, Paul. I'm not glad it was a try because I think by the letter of the book, it's an obstruction, how they've been calling it all year. But we want to stop players doing what Mitchell Moses did, and that's trying to milk the penalty. Because Kikau was clearly through. He didn't obstruct him in any way. It was Moses who attempted to make the tackle. So that should have been play on and scored. But if we're going by what's been happening all year, it should have been pulled up. So I hope they stick with what they did in the grand final and say, look, we know that you're trying to milk it, so it's play on and try. But then again, how are you going to tell each and every game if someone's milking it or falling down and trying to get the penalty? So it's a thin line, it's a tough line, but in the end, I wasn't happy with it because I was on Para, obviously, in 18-0. I think, not like Shirley said, I don't think it would have changed the outcome, but 18-0 to 22-0 straight after half time, sort of knife in the coffin, put him in the ground there. So it is what it is. It's done. And the bunker, I think they should take some lessons off the advantage line and chuck us in there. Let us do the work.
Oh, thank you.
Well, the bunker, there has been a lot of talk about the bunker all season long by a number of league commentators. Are you happy to stick with the bunker? Would you like to see, I guess, its powers revised, or would you like to see the bunker gone?
Well, you're setting me up to fail here.
I got my own opinion.
I feel like we've had this question already, and I said, get rid of it and just go back to one referee. But I don't know if I would stick with that. I don't know. We change it every year. Something changes every year, and it's at the end of every year we're talking about changing it again. So I don't know.
I'll say it again. The bunker is not the problem. It's the people inside the bunker that are the problem. You put me in a Red Bull Formula One car, I'm not even going to win a street race down here on Jackson Street. So,
for starters, speed limit's 30k, and there's too many cars.
and I'd stall it at the start as well. So the bunker is not the problem. It's the people making the decisions in the bunker.
Well, then who do we put in the bunker?
Well, I think Blake had a great suggestion about a minute ago. It's people who understand the game.
Should we imagine doing a live pod from?
You had grand final night. You had one immortal and two could be future immortals in Fittler and Cameron Smith. All disagree with the call. All say no, that's been obstruction all year. So when you've got three immortals, so you think, well, immortals, you think they know a bit about the game. Maybe get someone in there who knows a bit about rugby league and knows what it's like to be in that position. So that's where I think they need to go.
Didn't they go down that route one year where there was former players?
Yeah, they put a front rower in there. So when you're defending on the edge, it's a bit difficult to, yeah.
Every captain's challenge got approved because it was his fellow front rowers contesting them. He couldn't believe it.
Wasn't Luke Patton involved somehow? The general?
The general. He was in there, yes. The video, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know who's all involved, but maybe
Let's
some
start a campaign.
recently retired players.
Blake for the bunker. Let's start a campaign.
Well, he's going to be busy with the Tigers next year, so
And commentating. Jeepers. He's
Yeah.
all over the show.
Yeah.
Need a manager?
Yeah, mate. It's open. I need something. Kids are expensive, so you're my man, Carl. You know, get me the deals.
Sounds good. Sweet as.
well, he's at the under 16, under 18 girls champs. I mean, one of the NRL women's clubs must have signed him up to be a bit of a talent scout because he's got to see our best young rugby league talent on display here. Surely you've been tapped on the back by a Newcastle or a Roosters to go, hey, or one of the new clubs next season to just identify a wee bit of talent.
You'd think so, Paul. But I'm going to make a bold statement, right? Watching these girls play, not this World Cup, I don't believe so, but the next World Cup, the first World Cup, the team, the girls that are playing and running around at this age are absolutely phenomenal from what I saw a couple years ago. Skill level, the passing, the IQ, the Ferns, if they do it right, will win the next Cup, I believe.
Oh, big statement there. Love that. Love it.
Nice.
But look, should we take a look at this? The winners, the Panthers, first of all. And Surly, is this the start of a dynasty? It certainly has. It looks like the start of a dynasty. Has the makings of the start of a dynasty. Even though they're losing a few players next season, it looks like from the results of the other grades, they've got enough depth to cover those losses. Your thoughts?
Yeah, obviously you mentioned losing Kikau and Coruscant. That's really going to hurt, as well as a couple others. But those two in particular, they were both outstanding on Sunday night. In saying that, though, they have Mitch Kenny come in, and then they pick up Luke Gardner as well from the Tigers. And then all three of their lower grades won it. So you certainly can't question their depth. And I'm sure they'll unlock some talent we haven't even seen before. Maybe next year's the year of Maverick Gaia, son of Mark. Maybe he comes into the 17 and puts on a show. They've got that Sunia Taruva as well. Saw some glimpses of him. He could come in the 14 and light up the tournament. So they are losing a few, but Cleary and Luai, they have 54 of their last 58 games for Penrith. They've won a 93% win record. So that's got to be right up there with some of the best duos in world sport. And you'd have to think with those two there, your Dylan Edwards and the rest of the talent they have, they're going to be incredibly hard to beat again next year, despite the players they're losing.
Blake, can you, I mean, do we just lock in the Panthers for another grand final next season? Can we do that now? I get the feeling it's going to be another West Sydney battle. I'm just wondering who will meet the West Tigers in the grand final next year.
That's easy, mate. We can see it already. The Warriors will be meeting the Tigers in the GF next year. It'll be Western Sydney, Australia versus New Zealand. So, but just sitting back on the Panthers, I think they actually dip a bit next year. I had them dipping this year because I thought the amount of games played, but worked down the end of the year, they had their rest with Cleary having 5 weeks off, Luai with injury. I just think Api Coruscant's a massive loss because Mitch Kenny's not that player. He's a bash and barge type. He's not the skillful. And I know Sonny Luke in the lower grades look good in reserve grade, but it is that reserve grade. And if I'm a coach and he steps up, he's not a big body. So he'll be getting spotted in first grade, I believe. So I think they'll fall short. And then you put it on Cleary and you're going to have to ask Luai to do a lot more work. And he doesn't have Kikau now there on the edge. Look, they're definitely going to be fighting in the 8. I can't see them winning it again.
Carl, you sticking with the Panthers next season, or do you see a regression?
They'll, like Blake says, they'll definitely be in the 8. They'll be there or thereabouts, probably in the 4. But I'm kind of leaning towards the same sort of way, which is unheard of on the advantage line, siding with Blake here. But the number of games they've played in the last 3 years, we must be close to 60, 70, 80, 90 games, across those 3 years, which is a huge amount of footy, plus the World Cup this year. The majority of their players are playing. The big losses, Kikau, Coriops, wow. Coruscant just had a stroke. That two important players there. So I think they'll go backwards a little bit.
Bro, I don't know who you are, but whatever you did with the old Carl, can you bring him back, please? Agreeing with Blake.
Don't get me wrong.
Wow.
I still hate him. Like, don't. It's fine.
Well, I'm glad you bring up hate, because is this Penrith team one of the most easily hateable team in NRL history? I mean, look, football-wise, they're absolutely brilliant, but from what happened post-match, are you? I guess. Do you look at them a wee bit differently now, Surly? Could they be a wee bit more humble? Do they need to be humble? They're winners. They're back-to-back round champs. But I don't know. I don't like it, but I'm old school.
Yeah, it's certainly a different way of doing things, isn't it? And we're more used to kind of seeing this from your American-style athletes more than your Australia and New Zealand style. So I think they've definitely been heavily influenced by that. You see the ski masks, the cigars, they're talking their game after getting the win. So they've kind of got that NBA, NFL swagger about them at the moment. It's interesting because people either hate it or love it. And at the same time, we ask our athletes to be not so cookie cutter in the media and just give the same boring old answers. So when guys come out at 8 in the morning after a massive night, which is a stitch up in the first place, they're still well and truly under the influence and they say a few things. It's hard to blame them, really. But yeah, I guess they're that good that they can get away with it, and it's to their credit. Guys like Luai and that were saying, call me daddy before the game, and it was up to the Parramatta boys to shut them up. They didn't, so now they get to run their mouth. Yeah, it's a interesting one. You like it. You also want them to tone it back a little bit, but at the same time, if that's them being themselves, you see guys like Cleary and Edwards taking the more humble approach. But if Luai, Fisher, Harrison, that's the way they are, then good on them for being themselves, I guess, and it's up to these other teams to make them shut up.
Shirley, you do make a very, very good point about the saturation of American sports on this side of the world, and I can understand why kids growing up with that exposure to all that American sport and that, I guess, bravado might sort of, I guess it becomes second nature to them, natural. I think maybe there was a chance there for the Penrith club, Blake, to cut things off before that and to recognise the fact that 6 or 7 of these players were still quite inebriated the next morning, and possibly putting a microphone in their hand wasn't the best idea at the time, and maybe not let them talk at that time, or get some of the players who maybe weren't as happy.
They were wasted, Paul. They were wasted. They were hammered.
Yeah.
So to a certain extent, you've got to lay a wee bit of the blame on the club itself for not handling this a wee bit better.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, it's just what it is, isn't it? Like, you've seen it for the last 20 years or whatever. Now you see visions of Matthew Johns. It's better than Lego. It's a national treasure in Australia. It's better than Lego, and that was done 20 years ago on Channel 9. Like, it's just part and parcel of what grand final day is. I think people don't like it because of Penrith are winning so much, and we haven't seen it. We've been blessed with the Roosters, who they've got Teddy and Cooper Cronk and players like this in this club like this. So you got the Storm, who act a certain way, and here comes these boys from Western Sydney that act like this. And personally, if I was playing, I'd hate it, but at the same time, you get a chance to shut them up. What I want to see is when the tables do start to turn, how do they take it? Do they spit their dummy and start playing up, or do they cop it on the chin? So it's sort of a wait and see for me, because at the moment I love it because everyone has a chance to knock them off. and it brings a little bit extra to the game. And like Surly said, for years, we've had the same cliche answers, but you're starting to get there. Call me daddy. I love that. Call me daddy. And then Fisher Harris, they're our sons. Like next year, it's going to be brutal next year, the clash. And it just builds the game more and more, gets more viewers in. I love it personally. I do. And I'll be definitely tuned in next year. And if they bring back the Biff, well, it'd be even better.
I remember Penrith's premiership win where Royce Simmons said, "I'll have a schooner with all ears." And I thought that was brilliant. And he wasn't knocking anyone down. He wasn't having a go at anyone. He also wasn't
Sober.
He was sober because it was pretty much straight after the game. So he still had all his wits about him. But Fisher Harris saying that we're the greatest Penrith side of all time, is that not having a dig at other Penrith sides? Or can you say that sort of thing without saying?
He acknowledged the other teams. He said, these guys are great.
You guys were okay.
Oh, he said they were great.
You're all right.
But we're better. And he's not wrong. No other team. They didn't win 2 in a row.
I think he said facts. Yeah, exactly, Carl. He said facts as well, factually.
And are you going to argue with James Fisher Harris? I'm not.
I think
can't argue with it.
I think, like we mentioned, the biggest issue is that the guy controlling who does the media let all the players who are still in their same grand final kit up to talk on a Monday. Like, if that's not alarm bells, maybe pick the guy that's gone home, had a shower and scrubbed up a little, not the bloke who still had his wrist strapped in the works. He would have stunk by then as well. So, heck of a shift.
It's dumb that they have to do media the next day. Like, give them a couple of days to really rip in and then get this stuff together and then come out.
I'd love to see a little camera on the wall. Maybe if you're head of the content for Manu Samoa, let's see the meetup when Jerome Luai shakes hands with Junior Paulo back in camp, and let's see how close they are. Because, geez, it's going to be interesting. A lot of these guys are about to play with each other now.
Yeah, or when Regan Campbell-Gillard and Dylan Edwards. Oh, no, he didn't. I'm sure he's got some mouldy in him, eh, Dylan Edwards? Let's bring him across.
And Luai, he may be playing, may not be playing after his what up my trigger.
Wow. 50 Cent in the house.
Well, just hey, I'm reporting the news.
What do you think Ricky Stewart's initial reaction was when he saw his best mate, Jamin Salmon, get a ring? Do you think he was overcome with emotion?
Yes.
Right, let's move on. We better move on. Let's look at the other half of the grand final, the Parramatta Eels. And you were quite keen on them, Blake. Their season as a whole, pass or fail? I give them a big pass, huge pass.
Yep, I give them a pass. I was keen on them, and the reason I had them at the start of the year, along with the I just thought that this is their last time going to be together. And I think, we spoke about Penrith taking a dip. I think Parramatta take a huge step back next year. They're losing some really good players. And I just thought this was their last chance to maybe challenge for the title. And it's definitely a pass. Getting to the grand final, you've got 16 teams want to do it and only 2 can. So you're 2 of those 16 and didn't quite get the job done on grand final night, but it's still a pass for me. It's been a long time since they've won a title, and I think it'll still be carrying on for a long time to come.
What about you, Surly? You happy with how the Eels performed this season? You'd be a very, very tough taskmaster not to give them a bit of a pass here.
Yeah, I think just the fact they made it to the grand final, like Blake mentioned, so many teams want to do it, only 2 can. And I think heading into this year, I'm pretty sure we all had the Roosters, maybe the Storm, as more likely to contend against Penrith than Parramatta. Also think they probably played their most consistent footy in finals as well, which was interesting to see. Like the performances they put in, except for that final, were really impressive. like Blake mentioned, there's going to be a massive drop-off next year. They lose some quality players. But at the same time, making the grand final, we saw their fans turn out in massive numbers. I had a few friends over at the game. They reckon at least 80-20 in favour of Parramatta fans. So massive reward for them. It's a huge rugby league region. You know, they were stoked to just make the final. It'll be interesting to see what Brown, Moses, Gutherson, those type of guys take out of the experience. I think Dylan Brown's already come out and said that the whole week was pretty exhausting and he was kind of knackered by the time he took the field. So interested to see how he responds. But I see them dropping down, but they'll still be a top 8 side. And this year was a huge tick for them.
You, Carl, you up or down?
Thumbs up. Hell of a year. Like certainly said, anytime we make the grand final was a pretty successful year. Watching them run out on Sunday night, the Para players ran out first and they had the biggest smiles on their face. They were like looking around, taking it all in. That roar from the Para fans was rattling through the TV. I can only imagine how loud it was on field. But it was almost kind of like they were like, oh, cool, we made it. We're here. When Penrith ran out, game face, focused, ready to win, kind of like, we know what we're doing. We've been here, we've done it. Let's get it on. And that's kind of how it ended up in the result. But yeah, huge season from Para. Next year, not so huge.
Right. Can we talk about our friend Curran and his alleged incident up at, was it Port Macquarie? Has anyone got any oil on this? Can we throw it out there? Nothing?
Nothing.
We'll go by. We'll wait for the investigation to take its course, and then we can have a chat about it afterwards.
Sounds good.
Here, eh? Let's save it for the facts.
Rightio. Let's look at the women's grand final. And what a fantastic spectacle of rugby league. The Newcastle Knights got up after not winning a game last season, go from spooners to premiership winners. They were superb. Millie Boyle was just a beast in that pack. I thought the young half, the 17-year-old Jessie Southwell was sensational. And I can understand why Tamika Upton got the player of the match. She was outstanding, scored a beautiful try. She was almost like a Dylan Edwards, working the ball up from the back. She sort of controlled that defensive line as well. I guess, Surly, after watching the game, are you happy with how the women's game is going at the moment? And any standouts for you in regard in either side, either the Knights or the Eels?
Yeah, I think this edition of the competition was so much more competitive. You mentioned they went from wooden spooners to winning it. I think this was the first time since '94 where two sides have contested in the grand final that didn't play in the finals the year before. So that's pretty crazy, really, that the two bottom sides kind of had such a big climb like this. Pretty outstanding stuff. There we go. While we're in with a sniff. Even Paulie, he's in on the Tigers apparently, so who knows? But just those three players you mentioned were pretty outstanding. I think it's interesting that all three of them won't be playing for the Jillaroos in the World Cup, so that gives our Kiwi girls a good chance. Jessie Southwell, apparently too young, 17. They were worried she might get into trouble either on or off the field, so they've elected to leave her at home, even though she's arguably one of the top 5 players in the country. Millie Boyle, I think she can't get more time off work, which just shows at the moment what the sacrifices these ladies make, and just even exaggerates even more how crazy good of athletes they are, the fact that this isn't even their job. And then Tamika Upton, I think she's out with a calf. But yeah, an outstanding addition of the tournament. I'm really excited for next year bringing these new teams in. I think it's going to be top shelf.
Blake, Surly just said bringing new teams in. Will that dilute the competition too much next season, or is there enough depth there to continue this, I guess, this rise in the quality of play that we've seen in the women's game over the last few seasons?
Yeah, personally, I think, I'm not too well versed as the juniors and situation in Sydney, as I've been in New Zealand for a long time. But I do know there was a competition that wasn't the NRLW. There was, they had the Sharks, the Tigers, the Bunnies, all these other teams where the ladies plied their trade for many years before the NRLW started. And I think seeing the skill set just in the NRLW grow since its inauguration in 2018, I believe, it just gets better and better each year, like IQ wise, the passing the ball wise, the contact, and it's because they're not getting that, first grade coaching and trying to stop these little things. It's just pure, and it's brilliant to see. I think there will be enough talent. Is it going to be next year? I'm not sure, but I think with the years to come, they need to just keep investing in the game, because you saw players. I think Torfa, who was a standout for me for Para, the 13, she's been in it since 2018, and she gets better and better with every game she plays. Gail Broughton, from the ex-Sevens player, I think pulled out of the World Cup because she wants to learn the game a bit more. And she was outstanding. Every time she touched the ball, she looked like she was going to set up a try. So I think, Parramatta didn't win a game until their last regular season game, and snuck through, then knocked off the Roosters, who looked unbeatable, and almost come back, brought it back to 18-12, and could have snuck away with the win if it wasn't for the Knights strike players stepping up at the end. So, mate, I'm loving the footy from the women's game, and I just hope it does get better and better, Paul.
Yeah, no Warriors women's team next season, Carl. So that's a downer. But in terms of the women's game in general, things are looking very, very bright.
Yeah, I agree. It's disappointing, especially since the Warriors were pretty competitive when they were in the competition. But I think, like you, Blake and Sealy, we need to keep investing in this game. And I think the fact that people are pulling out of the World Cup because they can't get time off work is a joke. It just shows that this game needs to be fast tracked to become a professional game. And the spotlight on women's sport is only getting brighter and brighter, and it's just, let's do what we need to do. It's just to make it professional and get these ladies paid what they deserved and paid to play and all of that. So the future is looking bright for women's rugby league and women's sport in general, I think.
Just on the Warriors, I think we will see them come back in the next couple of years. I think, talking to a few people, they just want a kind of year's notice that they can put their hand up and say to the players, look, we're coming back in, and hopefully bring across some of that talent that we lost over to these Australian teams, because we did lose our biggest stars, and we need to bring them back to be competitive. So I think you'll see something come out, hopefully, that we're going to be back in the competition in this certain year, and hopefully then we can start getting players on board from then.
Big lift for the Kiwi Fern squad as well. Appy Nichols, who obviously missed NRLW this season, but last season had a baby. So she's back in the travelling squad, and she was enormous for the Warriors when they were in the comp. And I just think it was run poorly when they first started. COVID gave them time to go back, look at what didn't work, what did work, and now they've come back with a bigger product. And that's where I can't wait to see the Warriors in, because they can actually win the comp, and probably will win a comp for the men's. So, yeah.
What, are they in next year? No.
No, the Tigers win next year, then the women's win.
You saw the stat from the stat man that's gone viral. Whenever Para are in the final in the 1 to 2 years following, the Warriors are in the final.
They are in it, and they get beat. And they get beat by someone.
He's got another little stat in his notebook now. Well, it has happened before, where the bottom team and the second bottom team go next season into the grand final. So
look out, folks.
Look out. Listen out for that one next season. I'm sure he'll bring it up.
Yeah. Coach at the helm. We're good.
Big.
Shall we have a look at the Rugby League World Cup?
Yes.
Because
starts next week.
It's not far away. No. And most squads have been announced. I guess in terms of the Australian squad, the Kangaroos, it's more about who's been left out than about who's made the squad. Surly, if you look at the squad, well, first of all, your thought on the key emissions, but the overall look of the Kangaroos. There's never really a bad Kangaroo squad.
No, there isn't. And of course, when you look over the names, you'd be excused for not realizing who isn't in the team because it's just big name after big name, isn't it? But of course, your Dylan Edwards, Nicho Hynes, they were probably the two biggest emissions. I don't know if we've ever had a World Cup year where the Dally and the Clive have both missed out on making a squad. It's pretty crazy. I thought Hudson Young, there was rumours, I think 2 or 3 weeks back, that he was set to be named in this squad, and I think it was on Instagram, and I saw him commenting on it as well, getting congratulations from the boys. So that's a bit harsh that he ended up missing out as well. I think the biggest calls for me was that kind of Burton, Campbell, Graham over your Nicho Hynes type of player, because I think they have some good depth in the centres with your Latrells, your Jack Wyden, so I'm not sure if they needed to take both of them, but it's going to be interesting to see. It's still a stacked Australia side, but it's definitely beatable. So I think the Kiwis and a couple of those island nations in England as well will be licking their lips.
Blake, you can certainly make a case for Nicho Hynes and Dylan Edwards getting into the squad, and maybe they do with an injury or two here or there. I can understand, I guess, Matt Burton getting in ahead of Nicho Hynes. He's been the Bulldogs' best player all season long, and he offers them quite a bit of, I guess, versatility. But Dylan Edwards not making it, and Campbell Graham making it, is there
Yes. So when I went through each squad, I put them into wingers, centres, props, back rows, etc., just trying to see where they're trying to fill this. And for me, the only two actual wingers that the Aussies have are Addo-Carr and Tuolangi. The rest are all, like, you got Burton, Graham, Val, Holmes, who will probably have to play on the wing, but you're taking the best centre from the competition this year and you're going to put him on the wing. And then you've got Whiten and Latrell. Like, I would have, that's why I was a bit upset about Edwards not making it, because he did start his career on the wing and he's safe under the high ball. And it's not like, yeah, he's undersized, but try and tackle him coming back. He's making 300 meters a game, after contact making meters. So on the wing, he's just another winger. I'm pretty confused, Paul. I would have picked Edwards before I picked Hynes, even though Hynes has been outstanding. Because you've still got cover for the fullbacks with Latrell and players like that. So Edwards, I feel real sorry for, and our back row is outstanding. Our front row is a little bit underwhelming, if I'm being honest. And I'm looking at the other teams. I think Tonga's forward pack's the best in the competition.
Let's get to Tonga soon. But Carl, any decisions here that Mel Meninga made that you think he could have changed slightly? Only one recognised hooker in that squad, Harry Grant.
I'm looking through it. I'm trying to think who would you take out? Campbell Graham's the one. Like you say, I know why Matt Burton's are there. He's half his centre, probably wherever you want him. Ben Hunt probably going to play more of hooker than in the halves, but he gives you cover. Like, unlucky for those guys, but I can see why they're left out. The back line is stacked. There's a lot of depth and a lot of cover, and I think they'll probably all do a job. Yeah, the forward pack's a little bit like Blake said, a little bit skinny, if you will.
Right, Blake. You mentioned Tonga, and they're a team whose forward pack isn't skinny. And in fact, it'll probably be one of the biggest packs on the field at the Rugby League World Cup. Don't see a lot of weakness there. The halves, maybe where they sort of fall away slightly. And we saw the bulk of this Tongan team take on the Kiwis in international round earlier this season. And the Kiwis absolutely dominated from the outset. Are you expecting an improved showing from this Tongan squad at the Rugby League World Cup?
They're my roughies, Paul. $13. I can't believe that price when I'm looking at a couple of the other teams in front of them. Their fullback, you've got Tessie New probably won't play, but you've got Kohler, who I think is going to set this World Cup alight if he gets a chance. You've got Will Hopewadi, who's been playing big games in England and is a very good player. And you look at their halves and you speak a bit, but Tuilola here, he's played over there in some huge games and he can play half and do a good job. And you got Katoa, who kicked that 30-meter field goal to win Penrith the Jersey Flag title, I believe. And he's off to Redcliffe next year, and I'm hearing great things about him. So, look, they're wingers, they're centres. You got Penasini, Moses Suli, Talakai, Daniel Tupou, Sione, like their backline's as good as anyone. And their back rowers, you've got David Fafita, Kolomatangi, Olakawatu, and Tomalolo. That's just to name it. Like, there's still plenty more there. I think this squad can actually win the World Cup at $13. They could beat every squad.
I disagree.
Well, do you disagree, Surly, around Blake's extreme confidence around the Tongans? And I guess the $13 price is something that has really attracted Blake to the Tongans. But if you do look at their squad, they do have a very, very strong NRL experience look to them. But can they bring it all together and I guess put those performances on the field? I guess they'll have to do it in back-to-back weeks if they get through to the semis.
Yeah, I think the biggest concern for me just is that spine. You mentioned Katoa, like he's a great footballer, but it's kind of a different level now, isn't it? Internationals, you're going to be going up against your Clearys, your Jerome Hughes and the like. So it's just whether he can move the pack around the park as well as those guys can. I think the whole World Cup kind of style and being in camp together really suits Tonga. I don't think they suit those kind of one-off clashes. I think the more time they spend together, they're only going to get better and better, and you'll see that kind of cultural aspect really come through from them. So I think they'll be right up there. The big game for me is if Samoa lose to England first up and then Tonga get to take on Samoa in a quarterfinal. Like, that'll be huge. Obviously, we'll probably get to the Samoan squad, but that stacked, two proud island nations, the rivalry is massive. Just being in New Zealand for that game, it'll be all go amongst the fans. So that'll be cool to watch. But Tonga, they're definitely up there. I think maybe $10 is probably a fair price for them. But yeah, I don't really see them going the whole way. But it is in their favour that New Zealand will play the Kangaroos in a semi-final on the other side of the draw.
Carl, can we move on to another squad? Or you want to have a little chat about the Tongans?
Oh, I'm kind of with Sealy. Like, I think the spine's the big issue. That was for me. Hooker, no clear standout starting hooker. NRL, you've got Savila Havili, who will probably start, I'm guessing. And you got Sonny Luke from Penrith lower grades. And who else? I can't.
Havili and Luke. Havili over 100 NRL games.
Yeah, but over 100 NRL games playing 20 minutes off the bench. Like, he's got the experience. They are a very experienced side. They've got a lot of old heads. The back line is stacked. The back row is stacked. Like, don't get me wrong, they'll be in the semis. I think they'll definitely be in the semis. But I can't see them winning.
I guess they bring Sonny Luke off the bench to make a wee bit of an impact after Havili gets a wee bit tired, or they do it the other way around, start with Luke.
It's going to be what?
Bring Havili on?
20 minutes. You saw it last World Cup. I guess they gave England. They should have won that game. They got done.
Right, let's look at their Pacific neighbours, Samoa, and yes, this will be an enticing matchup if indeed the Samoans do get to meet the Tongans in the quarterfinals. And I have a look at their squad, and boy, oh boy, it looks a very, very strong squad all the way through. But they could have the likes of Suiali'i and To'o on the way. That'd probably be the best wing pairing in the whole tournament, arguably, unless they're going to put Suiali'i at the back. But I'm guessing Tabuai Fidel would be at the back. That's not the worst back three, Blake.
Yeah, I think this team's getting pumped up a bit too much for me.
Whoa!
We just spoke about spine. How does Luai go without Cleary? I'm not too sure. I mean, the kicking game, who's taking that on? Is that Chanel Harris-Tavita? Does he beat out Milford for it? How's Milford been the last 5 to 6 years? I mean, like their forward pack, is it as good as the Tongan forward pack? Alawai, Hamlin, Ueli, yeah. Hunt, Kafusi, Leilua's in trouble with the law at the moment. Yeah, you got the 2 big props. Papali and Paul are going to have to play big minutes, I think, if they're to do anything. I just can't jump on board with the $10 on them at the moment. I don't think, and like Surly said, if they do lose to England, which I think will happen in the first pool game, get on England at $1.95 now if you want to. They first Tonga, I don't think they come close to that Tongan side.
What? Surly, surely you've got a wee bit of blue blood in you there. You've got to come back with something.
Yeah, I think Samoa have the better squad on paper than Tonga. We can agree to disagree, but I just think the amount of Penrith, like that whole Penrith backline's almost in there. It's crazy. So I think that kind of continuity and how well they know each other is going to be huge for them. And then that forward pack is still extremely impressive. So I think Blake might be underestimating them slightly, but at the same time, I'm really interested in that first game against England because I think we'll get a great indication. If they can be really competitive in that, then the confidence they'll drain from that will be massive. So I think that will be a key indicator as to how they're going to go.
Surly's right, Carl. You look at that back line, To'o, Tago, Tabuai Fidel, Suali'i, Crichton, Harris-Tavita, and then the 2 big boys in the forward back, Papali'i and Bolo, Jaden Sewer, who wasn't the worst for the Dragons this season. Taylor May. Oh, my goodness. I don't know. I'm not sure what piece of paper Blake's been looking at. I'm tempted to side with Surly here.
Yeah, I'll square up against Blake here.
I've got a big rebuttal here.
Oh,
I'll save it, pal. I like the Samoans. I will agree with Blake. I don't think they'll win the first game against England. I think England are value at $1.95 for sure. But I feel like you mentioned before, Surly, I think, being in a camp for a lot longer, and I feel like this team needs time to gel. There's a lot of new guys that have, defected or declared that they're going to play for Samoa instead of Kiwis, Australia. It's going to take time for them to get into that, develop that team culture along with everyone who's been in that team for a few years now. So I think taking England in the first game, I think these guys will get better as the tournament goes along. I don't know. Bring on. I hope they play in the quarter final against Tonga. That'll be great.
looking forward to it. Let's
let him have his rebuttal.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
yeah.
We spoke about how good they are because of the Penrith lineup. Who runs the Penrith team? Oh, the halfback, he plays for Australia. The hooker, Fiji. The lock, who runs the attack, he plays for Australia. Oh, we've got the back rower protecting Luai. He plays for Fiji. It's just interesting to see how they're going to go without all the other stars around them, because they've been individual stars. I won't take that away from them. But they have 17 players, Penrith, that do a job. The 17 Samoan internationals going to do a job alongside these Panthers players to lift them up. I can't see it. As I said, all the other players run that team are playing for other countries. I win. I'll take that. Thank you.
It's the same for the Tongan side, though. For Noah Blake's the ball, like the running the halves for his teams, and they've been successful. It's the same. Both these sides have really strong forward packs. I think it does come down to their spines. That'll be the difference on who's the better team.
Yeah, agree.
Right. Should we have a look at the Fijians then? And I'm not sure if they've finalised their squad yet. But as Blake said, they've got the likes of Coruscant, Viliami Kiko, Kamikamika from the Storm, Naigama, Marcello Montoya, Tane Milne,
Ravalawa.
Mr. Ravalawa.
Blake's best mate.
Yes.
Like a Sivo.
They'll play a few. They'll have a go, won't they? Surely?
Yeah. Look, they're always a pretty strong side. We saw them lose to Papua New Guinea a few months back, which was probably a bit of an upset. But again, another side that I think will only get stronger the more time they spend together. out of the kind of 3 island nations, I see them as being that third one. But at the same time, they love World Cups. They bet the Kiwis in one on New Zealand soil. So you can never underestimate them. They've got some real X factor and talent there. It's just whether they have that depth of quality NRL players that a lot of these other teams have at the moment. I think a couple injuries and they could be kind of dropping off. But it's always exciting to watch the Fijians play, and they always have that upset potential about them.
I'm just trying to frantically look, but I'm not going to be able to do it quick enough. But I feel like they've been, it's always been Australia, New Zealand, and England. I feel like Fiji's always been the fourth in that semi-finals for a long time when it comes to the World Cups. Like you say, Shirley, I don't know if they'll be those guys this year, but I wouldn't be surprised if they are either.
Should we have a look at the English? Because I think they've been slightly undervalued by the bookies. I think they're a wee bit of, I think they're $13 at the moment to win the Rugby League World Cup. And if they make the final, they'll be very, very tough to beat there. They'll have a huge, huge home crowd behind them. They've got a strong, obviously, Super League field about them with a few NRL players chucked in for good luck. Shirley, can you see these guys making the final?
Oh, absolutely. They've got footballers all throughout their squad. Being at home in their own conditions is going to be a massive advantage for them as well. I think as NRL fans, often we do the old out of sight, out of mind, and we kind of focus on the players we see every week, and we really underestimate the quality of some of the players in the Super League as well. So I think there'll be a really strong team. Victor Radley and the likes will be massive additions for them as well. And yeah, home in front of a massive crowd, tough conditions. They're not a team you want to play come finals, that's for sure.
Blake, have you got them in your, I guess, chances for a final or a semi-final?
Yeah, definitely semi-final. I think they'll be there in the semi-final and they'll be fighting for a finals position. I just think the ex-Raiders firm back together, George Williams, Bateman, Elliot Whitehead. Now, they've played a bit Dom Young, who's been pretty good for Newcastle in a bad team this year. The young fella gets a start. And plus, it's an art playing over there. It's why a lot of, like, you've seen Dean Whare in the Kiwi squad, brought into the squad. Because, like, over there, the end goals are shorter. The grounds, everything's a bit different to playing in the NRL and in Australia. It is a fine art, and I think England excel at that as they play on it, year in and year out. So I think they'll be there in the semi-final. I think they'll just fall short. They don't have quite the depth that I think Tonga, New Zealand, and Australia do. But I think this would be the final for Tonga, Australia, New Zealand, and England.
You keen on the English, Cal?
Certainly am in game one. Definitely give me the English against Samoa. Yeah, they'll be there or thereabouts at the end. They're a pretty good team. Plenty of NRL talent, and the best of the best from Super League. So I have no doubt that they will be there or thereabouts.
Right. Shall we look at the Kiwis? Because this is one of the best Kiwi sides going around at the moment. At the time of recording, they're $4.33 to win the Rugby League World Cup, but there's also a boosted market there as well, where the bookies have boosted the Kiwis out to $5.50 to win the Rugby World Cup. I think it was $6 a day or two ago. So they've obviously taken a wee bit of cash on that, but you can still get the Kiwis boosted at $5.50 to win the Rugby League World Cup. I guess the big thing about the Kiwis is this is probably one of their best spines that they've had in a long, long time. Brandon Smith, I'm sure, will want to put on a huge, huge show before he moves on to his new club. Joey Manu has been outstanding for the Roosters all season. Who have we got? We've got Jerome and Dylan Brown in the halves, of course. Shirley, where are the weaknesses?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to pick, to be fair. And looking through the squad, there's some great players that are going to miss out on the 17 every week. I think the depth that we've created this year across a number of positions is huge. And the key thing for me as well is that most of these guys are really in form. You look through that forward pack, you'd have to say on paper we have the form pack of the tournament. And then areas where we've been a bit lighter in the past in your centres and things like that, guys like Sebastian Chris are pretty handy as well and can do a job if we have some injuries. So I do like our depth. I think our starting 17 is going to be really strong. And I'm really excited to see how this team goes. You mentioned Joey Manu. He's had a few weeks off now. He's well rested, and no doubt he'll be itching to get out there after watching the Roosters fall a few hurdles short. So I think this team's really primed and ready to go. And listening to Madge talk as well, he just spoke about how excited the guys are, how much they love pulling on the Kiwi jersey, and how great of an environment it is. So there's a bit of expectation. We mentioned the odds are quite high there, but I think the hype amongst the Kiwi public and the Australian experts as well is that the Kiwis are going to be right up there. So a bit of expectation to deliver, but I think with our spine and the troops we have, that's about right. We should be expecting to be right there at the big dance.
Blake, I think I guess the depth of the squad is sort of magnified by the fact that Watani Zelezniak, who was captain of the Kiwis, a year or so ago, will probably struggle to make the game day 17 outside of an injury or two. So are you as keen on the Kiwis as most pundits are at the moment?
Yeah, I was a couple of weeks ago. I've softened a bit, but still think they'll be there and could rattle the Aussies and rattle whoever they play in the semi, and could easily win the tournament. I'm just not as high as I was when it first came out. Like I said, I did my wingers, centers, things. I think they'll fall down in the outside backs a bit. The forward pack, I'm not questioning anyone in that forward pack. I think it's an outstanding forward pack. I think it rivals Tonga's for the best in the tournament. I think they might have a trouble if Brown or Hughes get injured, because I don't know, you've only got 4 in there, and the old dog, I know he'll give a crack and have a go, but I just think the class from Brown and Hughes, where they're at now, Foran's not at the peak of his career. He's at the end. And look, I don't know. The same as Brandon Smith, Jeremy Marshall-King's an absolute weapon. I'd love to see him get some game time, but 1 or 2 injuries to them. I think they're just 1 or 2 injuries in the backs away from disaster. I think their forward pack will match it every single game, possibly win them majority of the games. But yeah, mate, to your question, I think they can quite easily win it. And the betting has shown what they start at 7s or a bit more, and they're into 433, and rightly so. The squad they've named can win the World Cup.
Carl, even if they, and I don't want them to pick up any injuries whatsoever, but if one of either Dylan or Jerome was to go down, I guess they've got the option of using the old dog Kieran Foran, or they could move Joey Manu into the halves. We did see him play there a game or two for the Roosters this season, and he certainly didn't look out of place. And then they could put someone like a Nickel Clockstad at the back if that was to happen. I'm guessing that you are full steam ahead with the Kiwis.
Yeah, I the great looking side. This will be no surprise to anyone, but huge miss for me leaving SJ out. And it's not only because I love him as a player and person, never met the guy, but he brings more X factor to the team than Foran does. He just brings something extra than what Foran does, and I think, like you said, if Hughes or Brown go down, they're number 1 and 2, no doubt. And if SJ is there, he's probably not getting a lot of game time, but he provides something better on cover. I went through the team. I was like, I don't really know who you'd leave out for him. Maybe Sebastian Chris. We can move a few people around to sort of cover that centre spot, but it hasn't happened that way. So fingers crossed there are no major injuries in our halves. But aside from that, I really like the look of this team, and it may be the best Kiwis team we've ever put out.
I mean, I guess why don't we go through it right now and give our game day 13 number 1 jersey, surely Joey Manu, you just throw him in there straight away?
Yeah, he's arguably our best player.
I'm guessing the wings, Muli
Playing
Talo
well.
has 1 wrapped up. He's a certainty for 1 wing. The other one, probably Rapana ahead of Watani Zelezniak.
I think you probably flip a coin with those guys, but given the Raiders made it to the the semis, you'd probably put Rapana in their first crack.
I guess you could put Nickel Clockstad on there. He played on the wing for the Warriors before he went over to the Raiders. And we know he's as safe as houses under the high ball. I'll just run it out there. In the centres, though, Peter Hiku has got one of those wrapped up, the Blake Ashford lookalike. Well, sorry, I mean body type. Sorry, not lookalike. That
Yeah.
a faux pas on my behalf. But who partners him? Is it Sebastian Chris?
Chris or
I
Neil.
like Dean Fardy.
What about Murata, Niokore?
Or chance.
Wow.
Yeah.
Plenty of options.
Yeah. I guess we've got the halves worked out. Dylan and Jerome.
Yep.
Then if we look at the front row, now where do we go? Who's a certainty?
Fisher Harris.
Yeah.
Fisher Harris?
Scary MF.
And Bromwich has to be your other prop because now he's named captain, which is going to be
Captain,
really
yeah.
interesting when your Jared Waria-Hargraves comes back because it means one of them's missing out of Nelson, Moses Leota, who was arguably one of the best in the final, Harris. It's all go.
So obviously, Brandon.
Sorry, mate. I would have been starting. I know they've gone a little bit early on the Jesse, and you need a captain, but the way Leota and Fisher Harris started that grand final, I would definitely be starting them if they're my best 17. They're absolute crazy, and that's what you want.
Brandon Smith, lock it in for number 9.
Yeah.
And then we get to the second row. Where are we going here? We're going with someone like a Britton Nakora, Isaiah Papali'i,
Kenny Bromwich.
Kenny Bromwich.
Yeah. Any two of those three, I think.
Papali'i is a certainty, surely.
Yeah.
Papali'i one, and then either a Nakora or a Kenny Bromwich.
Papali'i and Nakora play on the same edge, don't they? So Bromwich is on the other side.
Then aren't you get like you think Bromwich and Bromwich and Papali'i are sort of the same players, same build. Nakora is a thinner build, but that line he runs it's going to kill teams in there. It just depends how they structure it, I guess.
They might go combos with the two halves. You know, you got Brown and Papali'i, and then Hughes and Bromwich. It depends how they play it. I really rate Brighton Niokore, and if he's in there and Murata Niokore is not in the centres, then he might even miss out on the 17, which is pretty crazy.
Does that mean we have a Tarpany in the 13 jersey?
Best prop in the world, 13. Yeah,
have to.
So if the bench, if Jeremy Marshall-King takes the 14 jersey, which I'm guessing he probably does.
They played Foz in the 14 in the mid-year test, didn't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's still a possibility.
I can't see it happening, but maybe.
And then if Madge decides to go with 3 big boppers outside there, I guess it's an Asafa Solomona, a Leota. There's going to be some guys that miss out.
You play Hargraves, Asafa Solomona, and Leota, and then you Solomona on the edge.
It's possibly. Could I play something at all? The best interchange in the NRL, it seems like. Or is he just not up? He's not there with the reckon.
It's
Who
hard.
did you say? Did you say Sorensen? Yeah. Yeah. It's once again, it's going to be a case of who misses out, not who makes.
For once, we've got depth.
Yeah.
We're good.
Oh, how good. Can't wait for it. And there are a number of markets open right now on the outright. You can get all the pool winners, the outright winner, and there are team top try scorer markets for New Zealand, England, Samoa, Australia, and Tonga at the moment. So have a look at them. I guess, what is it time for us to just have a look back at last week at how our bets went?
Wrap up the NRL season.
Wrap up the NRL season.
What are these numbers here, Paul? Are they legit?
Yes, they are. So those are our first try scorer bet,
right.
our man of the match, Clive Churchill bet, and our power play bet.
Okay. Gotcha. So standardized grand final betting. Blake lost $268.50. I lost
All
$470.
right.
Excuse me, please don't interrupt.
Have a
Paul,
look down to the last week. Scroll down. Grand final. What did Blake do?
minus 500.
Did not have a winning bet in the grand final, unfortunately, because he pinned his badge to the Parramatta Eels.
I was minus 450. Paul made $136.50.
Nice, Paul.
And Surly lost $326. However, on our separate bets,
Now it's 3 extras.
Blake was minus 150. I was up 225. Paul up 300. And Surly's,
Down.
gosh, the sheet is
Yeah.
Surly minus 150.
Yeah, well, I'll standardise it next season. Surely will be
So
a permanent fixture.
Cheers,
overall, the final standings are in. They're in, punters, listeners, and for a period there, we were probably up maybe $3 or $4 grand as a team for a decent period. We've since gone on to lose a lot of cash. Overall, as a team, we're minus $1,000 for the season. Not bad. It's a long season.
Wow.
And now the final rankings. This is fantastic. This is probably, I think, where everyone sits in terms of seniority on this podcast. A little bit of wiggle room, but we're about right. In last place, come on down, Blake Ashford.
Oh, did I? I've gone from
He
first to
went
last.
from first to last in 1 week.
It's the last.
It's only right the Tigers get the spoon.
Yeah, fair enough. And you know what? Next year when I win it and Tigers win it, it'll be a story to tell.
minus $418.50. In second last. He had a really good season, this rookie. He was up the top for a long time, but ultimately succumbed to the long season, the pressure. Surly minus $384.
Does that factor in the blooper from last week? I think there needs to be an investigation under that
Yes, it does factor it in.
There does, Surly. There does. I got Jim plenty.
one. You stay out of this, Blake, mate. You stay out of this.
And we'll go straight to first. It's out of Paul and myself. And it is the host, the great man, our leader, Paul Moati, the only man to finish in the positives. He did the opposite. He started strong. He was down the bottom for a long time and found his form late. Up $17.50 for the year.
He's done the Parramatta and the NRLW. He won nothing all year. Then come finals time, he shows up and just gets his way through. Huge.
And I
Thank
was
you.
down $250 on the year.
And you did pick Dylan Edwards as your Clive Churchill medal winner.
I did.
So that got up for you. And thank you, Brian To'o, for scoring a try in each half. Coming in at $9 is a great power play for the grand final. Stick with Brian. He'll look after you. He'll give you the
Tough
tips now.
scenes. So happy. I've been saying all year, Blake, I'm coming for you. And I got you in the last match.
That's one way to make.
I can't believe I was.
I like it.
I can't believe I was up to close to 1,000 with. I think we kicked off the finals. I think first week of the finals I was up 1,000, or I could have been close.
So
I've hit a massive wall.
In the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, you lost $1,500.
Yeah, see, and it shows throughout my rugby league career. I was never good in the finals because I only made it twice, didn't do much, never made it again for the career. So, just not made for me.
Add to that, like you dubbed yourself the Boston Celtics post All Stars, and we all know that didn't end happily either.
Exactly true. They went on a
Oh, gee.
Oh, how good.
Well,
Are we going to have a new sheet for the World Cup?
yeah, we'll do a new sheet for the World Cup.
Everyone starts fresh.
Everyone starts fresh. We should have some futures bets, though, before we get into the week-by-week betting. And because these try-scorer markets have only just come up in the last half an hour or so, I'm guessing that not everyone's had the chance to have a real good look at them. So we'll leave them for now. But do you just want to have a look at either? Should we just look at the outright winner book and give us? Everyone's got $50 to spend on the outright winner, and you can have a maximum of 2 bets, so you can split it if you want. Or you can have 1 bet. If anyone's ready, put your hand up. Oh, wow, well, let's start at the bottom of the table. We'll go to Blake first and see if he can rise out of the ashes and give us a couple of, or 1 or 2 good bets in the outright winner market for the Rugby League World Cup.
I'll definitely be splitting, Paul. I'll be going $30 on the Kangaroos and $1.45. Yeah, but they're winning, so it doesn't really matter. And if they're not winning, the $20 that I place on Tonga at $13 to the final Australia, Tonga. One of those two will be winning.
Right. Surly, where do you want to go?
Yeah, look, I'm a patriotic man, and as you can tell by my results, I bet with my heart, so I'll be going all 50 on the Kiwis.
Fantastic. And you might as well take the boosted odds, which are $5.50 at the moment.
Oh,
You beauty. I think I got them at sevens
well,
on my bet. So if I email that through, can I get them at $7?
Kiwis boosted at $5.50. Well, there we are. That's
Love a
what we would
boost.
do. Carl?
Yeah, I'll have the Kiwis boosted too, please, Paul. Yeah, let's go all 50.
All 50.
Oh,
He's going to hedge, is he? For that
Okay. Yeah, okay.
let's go.
meow.
Let's go all 50.
Okay.
The meow got him.
You just meowed me.
I'm going to go $40 on the Kiwis boosted at $5.50.
Meow.
And I'm going to have $10 on the English
Yeah,
at
that's what I was,
$13.
that's what I was going to do.
Yeah. So we'll now have a week to look over the top team try scorer bets. And look, we'll give everyone $20 for the 5 team try scorer markets that we've got open at the moment. So $20 to spend on the Kiwis, the Poms, the Samoans, the Aussies, and the Tongans. So have a bit of a study of that over the coming week, and then come back next week for the podcast, prepared to put your $20 on. And of course, we'll have a number of the games up. Well, we've got a few games up already, haven't we? Yeah, we have.
The first 4 games are up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but we'll have a look at them next week, hopefully, when we get a better idea of just what sort of squads are being named.
I'm going to have a chat to the bookies and
Yep.
see. We've got the pool
Pool winners?
but given there's no value outside of pool A,
Do you want
I'm going to see if
to
we
make
can
the
get
semis or to make the
to make the quarters, because I think there's a bit of value in those second teams. Maybe
Italy?
pool A. I think.
Yeah.
Lebanon.
And Ireland. Like that's going to be it's a lot closer than the outrights suggest.
Mitchell Moses, he's turning out for Lebanon, isn't he?
Moses and Dewey might be the best
Adam
halves,
Dewey? Yeah.
might be the best halves pairing in the comp.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, so we'll see if we can get a few more up prior to next week. And then Papua New Guinea and Cook Islands. Cook Islands a long shot, but
Forget about it.
Yeah.
Papua New Guinea.
tell you what,
Papua New Guinea make
and
it out of there.
I'm sure we'll talk about it more next week, but the first game, Papua New Guinea versus Tonga, 28.5 point start.
Oh,
First game of the comp, I'll tell you what, give me PNG. Give me PNG plus 28.5.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a bit colder in Portsmouth than it is in Port Moresby. Those boys will be cold.
The Tongans are from the islands too, mate.
Yeah, but not as hot as Papua, are they? Okay, they're up there, the top of Australia.
I got a
That's-
a bit of breaking news on the Jerome Luai. She's a constant update, but he's gone to Instagram. He's put up a quote from Ryan Madison saying, considering Jerome Luai is kicking players and not getting cited, it makes you wonder where the game is heading, on a Fox League post. And then he's done crying faces to a Justin Timberlake Cry Me a River song, and he's chucked it up on his story. So there you go. The machine keeps getting fueled. Great to see.
He must still be hammered. Oh, good.
I think we'll leave it there. Boys will be back next week.
Yeah.
And I'll
Dad's away next week, boys.
I'll send my picks in by telegram. So, don't worry. If you've got any questions, well, just slip into my DMs. I'll answer any questions that I find in there. But it's been a great NRL season. Congratulations to the Penrith Club and the Panthers. They were superb. In fact, all of the Penrith teams were very, very good. And it looks like they've got a bright future ahead of them. Good luck.
Congrats to you too, Paul.
Yeah, congrats, Paulie, mate.
Congrats, Paulie. Always knew it about you. You mean Tigers next year, Paulie. We're back.
Yeah, cream rises to the top. When the playoffs are on, that's when I get down to my best business. 2 a.m. on the dance floor, that's when I'm really flying. So
Go buy yourself a beer and a pie with that $17.
Not in the middle of town. You won't get a beer and a pie for that.
Might get a pie.
Yeah. Anyway, you boys will be back next week for more Rugby League World Cup. And until then, thanks for listening. Thanks to you boys. And we'll see you again. Well, I won't, but these boys will see you again next week for another edition of The Advantage Line.